Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden hue over the room, illuminating tables adorned with crisp white linens, exotic floral centerpieces, and champagne flutes bubbling with promise. The air hums with the low murmur of conversations, politicians schmoozing venture capitalists, entertainers trading laughs with philanthropists, all dressed in their finest. Tuxedos sharp as knives, gowns flowing like rivers of silk and satin. At the heart of it all stands Kiana Voss, the 38-year-old CEO of VossTech, a billion-dollar renewable energy empire that's not just turning profits but transforming lives by bringing affordable solar power to Black communities across the South. Kiana is a vision in her custom emerald gown, designed by a rising Black couturier from Harlem. The fabric clings to her athletic frame, accentuating the curve she's earned from early morning runs through Piedmont Park, a ritual that clears her mind before diving into the cutthroat world of boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. Her natural coils are swept into an elegant updo, adorned with subtle gold pins that catch the light like stars. She moves with the grace of someone who's conquered mountains, her brown eyes sharp, scanning the room with a mix of pride and guarded vigilance. Tonight, she's here to accept the Philanthropist of the Year award, a gleaming crystal trophy that symbolizes not just her success, but the legacy she's building, one panel, one community at a time. As she ascends the stage steps, the applause swells like a wave crashing against the shore. The MC, a charismatic radio host with a voice like smooth jazz, introduces her. "Ladies and gentlemen, the woman who's lighting up our future, Kiana Voss." She smiles, that practiced megawatt grin that's graced magazine covers from Forbes to Essence. Taking the podium, her voice rings out clear and commanding, laced with the faint southern drawl that reminds everyone she's Atlanta born and bred. "Thank you. This award isn't mine. It's for the ancestors who dreamed of a world where our communities thrive, for my team at VossTech who turned vision into voltage, and for every Black family whose home now glows with clean, affordable energy. We've come far, but the fight for equity isn't over. Let's keep pushing forward." The crowd erupts again, but then a subtle shift. A murmur starts at the back, spreading like wildfire through dry grass. Phones vibrate in pockets and purses, notifications pinging in rapid succession. Heads bow to screens, eyes widening, whispers turn to gasps. Then, cutting through the din like a dagger, a reporter from a tabloid outlet shouts from the rear, "Ms. Voss, any comment on the leaked prenup? Is it true you're offering your fiancé $50 million to stay silent about your alleged affairs? And what about the board's vote tomorrow? Will this scandal force you out?" The room freezes. Kiana's hands grip the podium so tightly her knuckles pale. Her heart pounds in her ears, a drumbeat of shock and fury. The award slips slightly in her grasp, the crystal cool against her suddenly clammy palm. Flashes from cameras explode like fireworks, blinding her, capturing every micro-expression of vulnerability on her face. The burn of humiliation sears through her chest, hot and unrelenting, as if the entire world is stripping her bare. Whispers amplify. "Did she really? $50 million? That's hush money. Poor thing, power can't buy loyalty." In that instant, her meticulously constructed empire, the deals, the respect, the armor of success, crumbles under the weight of a betrayal she never anticipated. Love, or what she dared to believe was love, has detonated in public, costing her not just her privacy, but potentially her throne. But hold on. Let's rewind the tape. Pull back from this explosive climax to the quiet origins of it all. This didn't erupt from nowhere. It simmered, built layer by layer, in the everyday grind of a life balanced on the edge of power and isolation. It started on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in mid-spring. The kind of day where Atlanta's skies open up without warning, turning streets into rivers and forcing even the busiest souls to seek shelter. Kiana Voss wasn't always the untouchable titan she appeared to be. Born in a modest shotgun house in southwest Atlanta's Adamsville neighborhood, she grew up watching her single mother, a schoolteacher named Loretta, juggle two jobs to keep the lights on, literally. Power outages were common in their area, courtesy of outdated grids and utility companies that prioritized profits over people. Young Kiana would huddle under blankets with a flashlight, dreaming of a way to harness the sun's endless energy. That dream propelled her. Straight A's in school, scholarships to MIT, where she majored in electrical engineering and minored in business. Post-grad, she bootstrapped VossTech from her mother's garage, starting with small solar installations for local churches and community centers. Now, a decade later, it was a behemoth, employing hundreds, partnering with governments, and raking in billions. But success came with a price: endless scrutiny, opportunistic suitors, and a loneliness that echoed in her sprawling penthouse overlooking the city. Her defenses were fortress-like. Every potential partner signed NDAs thicker than novels, underwent background checks that could rival CIA dossiers, and navigated her schedule, which was packed with investor meetings, charity events, and red-eye flights on her private jet. "People don't see you," her mother had warned before passing from cancer 5 years ago. "They see the dollar signs." Kiana took it to heart. Her romantic history a graveyard of disappointments. The actor who used her for clout, the lawyer who leaked pillow talk to rivals. She was respected, feared even, but at night, when the city lights twinkled below, she wondered if anyone would ever love the woman behind the wealth. That fateful Tuesday, the rain caught her mid-stride as she exited a meeting at the Georgia Tech incubator. Her driver, Jerome Wilkins, a burly 50-something ex-Marine with salt-and-pepper hair and a perpetual squint from years behind the wheel, pulled up in the sleek black Escalade. "Boss, hop in quick," he called, umbrella at the ready. Jerome wasn't just an employee. He was her confidant, her unofficial uncle. He'd been with her since the early days, when VossTech was just a van full of panels. He saw the tears after tough negotiations, heard the late-night calls, and offered wisdom wrapped in gruff humor. Jerome's own life had been a tapestry of service and sorrow. Born in rural Georgia in the late 1960s, he enlisted in the Marines at 18 to escape poverty, serving 2 tours in Vietnam where he earned a Purple Heart for shrapnel wounds that still ached on rainy days like this one. Back home in the 70s, he struggled with the invisible scars of war, nightmares of jungles and ambushes, the guilt of surviving when buddies didn't. He married young, had a son named Marcus, and worked odd jobs as a mechanic before tragedy struck. Marcus, at 19, was gunned down in a senseless drive-by in their old neighborhood, a victim of the crack epidemic's ripple effects. The loss shattered Jerome. His marriage crumbled under the grief. He channeled his pain into protection, becoming a security consultant before Kiana hired him a decade ago. She reminded him of the daughter he never had. Fierce, brilliant, vulnerable beneath the steel. "You need anything else today?" he asked, as she slid into the back, his voice carrying the gravel of a man who'd seen too much but still believed in loyalty. "Just a coffee, Jerome. Something strong. Pull over at that spot on Peachtree. I'll grab it myself." He raised an eyebrow in the rearview mirror. "You sure? Paparazzi might be lurking." Jerome's sixth sense for trouble was honed from years in the field. He could spot a tail a mile away or sense when a meeting was about to go south. She waved him off with a tired smile. "I need a minute to feel normal. Won't be long." The coffee shop was a cozy nook called Brew Haven, tucked between a bookstore and a vintage record store, far from the upscale cafes where Atlanta's elite sipped lattes. The bell tinkled as she entered, rain dripping from her trench coat. The air was thick with the aroma of freshly ground beans, mingled with hints of vanilla and cinnamon from pastries behind the counter. Patrons hunched over laptops or chatted in low tones, oblivious to the billionaire in their midst. Kiana joined the line, scrolling through emails on her phone. Projections for a new solar farm in rural Alabama, a pitch from investors eyeing expansion into Africa. That's when it happened. Reaching for a napkin dispenser, her elbow clipped a stack, sending them fluttering to the floor like confetti. "Damn," she muttered, bending to gather them. At the same moment, so did he, their hands brushing in a spark of unexpected contact. "Sorry about that," he said, his voice a deep, resonant baritone that cut through the shop's ambient hum. "You all right?" She looked up and Time stuttered. His eyes were hazel, warm like autumn leaves, framed by a strong jaw and a faded haircut that spoke of practicality over vanity. He was tall, about 6'2", with broad shoulders filling out a simple navy button-up shirt. Sleeves rolled to reveal forearms, toned from what she later learned was coaching youth basketball. No flashy jewelry, just a leather bracelet that looked handmade. His smile was genuine, crinkling the corners of his eyes, devoid of the calculation she was used to. "I'm fine," Kiana replied, straightening with the napkins in hand. "My bad, multitasking fail." He chuckled, a low rumble that eased the tension. "Happens to the best of us. Here, let me help." They finished gathering, and as the line moved, he didn't retreat. Instead, he asked, "First time here? They make the best caramel macchiato in the city." Kiana arched an eyebrow, intrigued by his ease. "Actually, yeah. Usually I send someone. What's your name?" "Darnell Hayes," he said, extending a hand. His grip was firm, calloused, hands that worked, not just signed checks. "Kiana," she offered, omitting her last name on instinct. She waited for the flicker of recognition, the shift to opportunism, but it didn't come. They chatted as the line inched forward, not about stocks or startups, but the absurdities of Atlanta life. How the traffic on I-85 felt like a personal vendetta, why trap beats hit harder on Friday commutes, the way a good rain washed away the pollen but left everything slick and unpredictable. For the first time in ages, Kiana felt her shoulders relax, her laughter bubbling up unforced. When their orders arrived, her latte, his black coffee with a dash of cream, he insisted on paying. "On me," he said. "Call it payback for the napkin chaos." "You don't have to," she protested, reaching for her wallet. "Nah," he replied with that easy grin. "Some things in life ain't about transactions." The words lingered like the steam from her cup as she exited, Jerome waiting curbside. "New friend, boss?" he asked, eyeing her subtle smile. Jerome had a way of reading her moods, a skill born from his military days where survival depended on noticing the unspoken. "Just coffee," she said. But as the car pulled away, her mind replayed the encounter. Who was he? A quick mental note to have her assistant run a check. Standard procedure. Jerome glanced back. "Want me to look into him? Just say the word." His protective instinct was always on, especially after past betrayals that had left Kiana wary. Days blurred into routine. Board meetings where she battled skeptical investors over eco-initiatives, charity galas where she networked with a smile masking exhaustion. But Darnell stuck in her thoughts. A discreet search revealed he was 35, director of the East Point Community Center, a nonprofit hub for at-risk youth. He taught STEM workshops, coached sports, and lobbied for grants to equip kids with skills for the future. Ironically, his center used VossTech solar panels. He'd installed them himself during a volunteer drive. Intrigued, Kiana found an excuse, a surprise donation visit. She arrived unannounced, Jerome in tow, carrying a check for new laptops. The center was a vibrant chaos, kids laughing in classrooms, murals of black icons adorning walls, the hum of computers and chatter filling the air. Darnell emerged from an office, wiping hands on jeans, surprise flashing across his face. "Kiana? From the coffee shop?" She smiled. "Guilty. Heard about your work here. Thought I'd contribute." His eyes narrowed playfully. "Or did you Google me?" "Busted." "Maybe. Impressive what you're building." He gave her a tour, introducing kids who beamed at her questions. In a quiet moment, as they watched a group code a simple robot, he said, "These kids remind me why I do this. World tells them they're from the wrong side. I show them they're the future." Kiana nodded, a pang in her chest. "I get that. Started VossTech for the same reason." "VossTech?" His brow furrowed, then widened. "Wait, you're Kiana Voss, the Solar Queen?" She braced for the change, the awe, the ask, but Darnell just nodded. "Cool. But here, you're just the napkin klutz." Laughter again. That evening, as they stacked chairs after a workshop, he challenged her. "You don't have to front here, Ms. Voss. These walls have seen every mask." "It's Kiana," she corrected, vulnerability creeping in. "And what mask?" "The one that says I'm fine alone. Folks at your level forget the ground. But I see you building empires but scared to let anyone in." His words landed like a truth bomb, exploding her defenses. No one spoke to her like that. Not her board, not her dates. Darnell wasn't impressed by her jet or her title. He saw her soul, and it terrified her as much as it thrilled her. On the drive home, Jerome shared his thoughts unprompted. "That place reminds me of the youth programs I volunteered for after Marcus, you know, good man, that Hayes. Reminds me of the sergeants who kept me alive over there, straight shooters." Their connection deepened slowly, like roots taking hold. First, casual texts. "Saw your TED Talk, fire." Then, a low-key meetup at a food truck festival in Grant Park, where they shared jerk chicken and debated the merits of Outcast versus Future. Darnell opened up about his past. Raised in public housing by a grandmother after his dad bolted for a better life. He put himself through Morehouse on scholarships, majoring in education. "Power seduces," he said, "but community sustains." Kiana shared too. The isolation of being the only black woman in rooms full of white investors. The pressure to be twice as good. "Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it," she confessed over sweet tea. "It is," he assured, his hand covering hers. "But don't lose yourself in it. Enter the inner circle." Jerome, ever watchful, vetted Darnell subtly. "He's clean, boss. No red flags. Seems genuine." Jerome's background checks were thorough, drawing from his security days where he'd protected dignitaries and uncovered frauds. Her cousin Terrell, a 40-year-old real estate mogul with a protective streak wider than the Mississippi, met him over backyard barbecue at Kiana's family home in Buckhead. Terrell, with his booming laugh and sharp eyes, grilled Darnell like ribs. "What you do? Why her? You after the bag?" Darnell met his gaze unflinchingly. "I run a center for kids, and Kiana? She's brilliant, kind under that armor. Ain't about money, it's about her." Terrell paused, then clapped him on the back. "All right, cuz, but break her heart, and I'll handle it personally." Later, Terrell pulled Jerome aside. "What you think, old man?" Jerome nodded. "Solid, like the brothers I served with. Loyal to the core." As weeks turned to months, their dates blended luxury and grounded reality. One night, Darnell's beat-up Jeep for a drive-in movie. Another, Kiana's private jet for a quick escape to Savannah's beaches. But tension brewed. Paparazzi caught a shot of them holding hands, sparking whispers. "Voss's mystery man, charity case, or gold digger." Vaughn Ellis, her PR maestro, a 45-year-old gay man with impeccable style and a tongue sharper than his suits, flagged it in her office. "Darling, he's adorable, but optics, he's blue-collar, your Forbes list. Blogs are spinning slumming it narratives." Kiana's jaw tightened. "It's not like that, Vaughn," he sighed dramatically. "In our world, honey, truth is what they print." And Evelyn on the board? She's clutching her pearls already. Evelyn Hargrove, 62, a real estate tycoon and board member, embodied respectability politics. Prim in her Chanel suits, she preached excellence without excuses in meetings, her voice dripping with judgment. "We represent the pinnacle," she'd say. "No scandals diluting our image." Then there was Lennox Barrett, Kiana's ex, a slick 40-year-old VC with a charm that masked his venom. Their engagement ended when she discovered his leaks to competitors. Now, bitter, he fed dirt to blogs like Shade Room Elite, a whisper network for elite black drama. Despite the noise, Kiana and Darnell pushed on. Stolen moments, late-night talks in her kitchen, Darnell whipping up grits while they dissected systemic racism, quiet rides with Jerome at the wheel where confessions flowed. During one such ride, after a tense day, Kiana opened up about her fears. Jerome chimed in from the front. "Boss, remember when I lost Marcus? Thought my world ended. But protecting you, seeing you rise, that gave me purpose. Love's like that. Risky but worth it if it's real." "I love how you challenge the status quo," she whispered to Darnell once. "And I love your fire," he replied. "But trust me, Kiana, no walls." Trust was the hurdle. When intimacy deepened, her lawyers drafted an NDA. "Routine," she explained, sliding it over dinner. Darnell's face clouded. "You think I'd betray you? It's the world, not you." He signed, but the seed of doubt sprouted. Love shouldn't require signatures. Boardroom pressures mounted. Harlan Whitaker, a white investor with predatory eyes, hinted at mergers during calls. "Personal distractions could hurt valuations, dear," Kiana seethed. "My life, my business." The first major leak hit. A photo of their kiss, headlined, "Voss's New Plaything." Darnell exploded. "I'm no accessory," they argued on her rooftop, storm clouds mirroring their mood. "You don't understand the stakes," she cried. "And you don't see me as equal," he countered. They reconciled in a passionate embrace, but cracks formed. Jerome, witnessing the fallout from afar, later advised, "Give him time, boss. War taught me, battles ain't won in a day." As the gala neared, invites out, speeches drafted, antagonists circled, Lennox plotting, Harlan scheming, Evelyn judging. In a solitary prayer in her bedroom, Kiana whispered, "If this is real, protect it." But the explosion was coming, and it would shock the city to its core. The gala's aftermath unfolds in a frenzy of lights and shadows, the ballroom now a battlefield of flashing cameras and urgent whispers. Kiana stumbles off the stage, her emerald gown swishing like a flag of surrender, the award clutched forgotten in her hand. The reporter's words echo in her mind, a looping nightmare. Leaked prenup, affairs, board vote. Darnell rises from their table, his tux rumpled, face etched with confusion and rising anger. He pushes through the crowd, reaching her side as security forms a barrier. "Kiana, what the hell?" he mutters, his hand on her arm. Jerome materializes from the edges, his massive frame parting the sea of gawkers like Moses. "This way, boss," he growls, guiding them to a side hallway. His mind races back to Vietnam, dodging fire. Same instinct, different war. Terrell, mingling earlier, joins the exodus, his phone already out, texting allies. The door slams shut behind them, muffling the chaos, but the damage is done. Kiana whirls on Darnell, her voice a whip crack of pain. "Did you do this? Leak it to make a point?" His hazel eyes flash with hurt. "What? After everything? I'd never sell you out." "Then explain how they know details only we discussed." Tears streak her makeup, the humiliation of vice around her heart. Vaughn bursts in, tablet in hand, face flushed. "It's viral. Prenup scans on every blog. Stocks dipping already." The group scatters. Jerome scouts an exit. Terrell calls lawyers. Vaughn spins narratives. But in that dim hallway, Kiana and Darnell's world fractures, trust hanging by a thread. Jerome pulls Kiana aside briefly. "Breathe, boss. Remember Marcus. Pain passes. Truth endures. To understand the storm's fury, we must trace its gathering clouds back to the fragile bloom of their romance after that rooftop reconciliation. The kiss under the rain had sealed a truce, but love in the spotlight is a delicate dance, one misstep from disaster. Post-argument, they tried normalcy. Darnell invited Kiana to his world, a Saturday at the community center for a STEM fair. Kids showcased projects, solar-powered toys, coded apps for neighborhood alerts. Kiana, in jeans and a VossTech tee, judged entries. Her laughter, genuine as a boy, explained his eco-robot. Darnell watched her, pride swelling. "You fit here," he said later, over pizza with the staff. She squeezed his hand. "Feels good to remember why I fight." But her world intruded. A weekend getaway to the Bahamas, her private jet whisking them to turquoise waters. On the beach, toes in sand, Darnell shared deeper scars. "Dad left when I was 10 for a woman with money. Said we were holding him back. Grandma raised me right. Taught me value ain't in banks." Kiana traced his arm. "My mom sacrificed everything. Died before seeing VossTech soar. I built this for her, but sometimes it feels like a cage." He pulled her close, waves lapping. "Then let's break free, even if just for moments." Back in Atlanta, leaks began as drips. A blog post. Voss's secret beau. Hero or hustler. Lennox's handiwork. Anonymous sources claiming Darnell angled for funding. Kiana confronted Lennox at a fintech mixer, cornering him by the bar. "This stops now," she hissed. He smirked, glass raised. "Jealous? You picked a pauper over me. Love blinds you, Kiana. Makes you vulnerable." She walked away, fury simmering, but doubt crept in. In Jerome's car that night, city lights blurring, he said, "Don't let that snake win. Hayes is the real deal." Jerome's voice carried the weight of his history. After Vietnam, he'd joined a veterans group in Atlanta, helping others navigate PTSD. Losing Marcus to gun violence in the 90s pushed him further into mentorship, volunteering at centers like Darnell's before Kiana hired him. "Kid like Hayes? He's saving lives like I wish I could have saved my boy." Board tensions escalated. Evelyn summoned Kiana to her Buckhead mansion, tea served in fine china. "This dalliance," Evelyn said, nose wrinkled. "It's unbecoming. We're symbols of black achievement. Marrying beneath? It reeks of lowered standards." Kiana's temper flared. "My heart isn't a board agenda, but your leadership is," Evelyn countered. "Distractions invite vultures." Harlan piled on during a Zoom call, his Florida tan glowing. "Rumors affect mergers. Focus, or we reconsider investments." Darnell pushed boundaries too. When Kiana offered to bankroll his center's gym renovation, he balked. "No, we bootstrap here, teaches resilience." In her kitchen at midnight, candles flickering, they clashed. "I'm helping," she argued. "You're controlling," he shot back. "Love means equals, not benefactor and beggar." The prenup discussion ignited the blaze. Lawyers in her office, documents crisp. "Essential for your assets," they advised. Darnell read it at her dining table, face hardening. 50 mil payout? Non-disparagement? This screams distrust." "It's protection," she pleaded, voice cracking. "For your empire. What about us?" He signed, but left early, the door's click echoing like a judgment. Family weighed in. Terrell hosted a family dinner, cousins, aunts, where Darnell charmed with stories. But later, Terrell pulled Kiana aside. "He's solid. But if he can't handle the glare, protect yourself. Vosses don't crumble." Jerome, overhearing, added, "Listen to your gut like in the field. But love? It's the one battle worth losing everything for." Alone on her balcony, city humming below, Kiana prayed. Show me the path, Lord. Is this love or a lesson? Leaks accelerated. X-threads viraling accusations of Darnell's clout chasing. Paparazzi ambushed them at dinners, twisting intimacy into scandal. Darnell confronted her in a secluded park, benches slick from dew. This circus, it's killing me. Pause us? No, she insisted, gripping him. We endure. Gala prep intensified. Kiana chose the emerald gown for its symbolism, growth, resilience. Darnell in tux, they practiced speeches. Proud to stand by you, he said. At the event, toasts clinked, but undercurrents swirled. Then the reporter's bomb. Hallway chaos ensued, Darnell's denial ringing hollow in the moment. Later, tech forensics pointed to Lennox, hacked by Harlan's funds. But trust was wounded. Board emergency. Evelyn pushed ouster. Harlan salivated. Jerome drove Kiana home, silence heavy. We'll fight, he vowed. After Nam, I rebuilt. You can too. His words, drawn from decades of resilience, steadied her. But the vote loomed, love and empire colliding. The first light of dawn filters through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Kiana's penthouse, casting long shadows across the marble floors and minimalist furniture. She hasn't slept a wink, her silk robe draped loosely as she paces the living room, the city awakening below like a distant hum. Her phone, set to silent, vibrates incessantly on the coffee table. Missed calls from investors, texts from concerned friends, notifications piling up like debris after a hurricane. VossTech's stock has plunged 18% overnight, headlines blaring across every outlet. Empire in eclipse, Voss's love leak rocks Black Billionaire's world. The chill of betrayal wraps around her like a fog, seeping into her bones. Was Darnell the culprit, or just another pawn in a game she thought she controlled? Doubt wars with the memories of his touch, his truth-telling eyes. Terrell arrives first, keying in with the spare code, 2 steaming coffees in hand from their favorite spot in the West End. "'Cuz we got this," he says, pulling her into a bear hug that smells of cologne and determination. "Lawsuits, countersuits, I'll bury those fools." His real estate empire has taught him to fight dirty when needed, but his protectiveness stems from childhood, when he shielded little Kiana from neighborhood bullies. Vaughn sweeps in next, his usual flair muted by the crisis, a digital war room on his tablet. "Darling, we've got a plan. Frame it as a deepfake forgery. Rally the sisterhood on socials. We'll turn this mess into a masterclass on resilience." He paces, brainstorming taglines, his mind a whirlwind of spin. But Darnell's radio silence cuts deepest. No texts, no calls, his phone going straight to voicemail. Kiana stares out the window. The burn of last night's humiliation reigniting with every replayed moment. Jerome knocks softly before entering, his presence a steady anchor. "Boss, I scouted the building. Media's camped out front. We slip out the service exit if needed." His eyes, shadowed by years of vigilance, soften as he sees her state. "You eat anything? Can't fight on empty?" She shakes her head, sinking onto the couch. "How did it come to this, Jerome?" He sits across from her, his burly frame creaking the leather. This is the moment his backstory unfolds in quiet confession, a rare vulnerability from the man who's always been her rock. "Let me tell you something, boss. Back in Nam, I was just a kid from the sticks, thinking enlisting would make me a hero. 2 tours. Saw things no one should. Lost half my platoon in an ambush near Da Nang. Shrapnel in my leg. But the real wounds? Up here." He taps his temple. "Came home to protests, folks calling us baby killers. My wife, Ella, she stuck by me through the nightmares, the jobs I couldn't hold. We had Marcus, bright kid, loved tinkering with cars like his old man. But the streets... Atlanta in the 90s was rough. Crack everywhere, gangs recruiting. I worked double shifts as a mechanic, trying to move us out. But one night, drive-by caught him walking home from basketball, 19 years old, gone just like that. His voice cracks, eyes distant. Blame myself. Should have been there. Should have protected him. Ella left. Couldn't look at me without seeing the pain. Wandered for years, drinking too much, until a vet group pulled me in. Started security work, guarding folks who needed it. Then you hired me, fresh off that garage startup. You gave me purpose again, boss. Seeing you build VossTech, it's like saving a piece of Marcus every day. So whatever this is, leak, betrayal, we face it head on. Family don't break. Kiana's eyes well up, reaching for his hand. I didn't know all that. Thank you. For everything. The revelation steels her. She rallies the team. Forensics on the leak, PR countermeasures. Darnell, meanwhile, holes up at his center, fielding calls from worried staff. His own heart aching. He digs independently, using community contacts to trace digital breadcrumbs, old habits from advocating against gentrification hacks. By midday, they reunite at a neutral ground, a quiet diner in Midtown, booths worn from decades of secrets shared over greasy plates. Darnell slides in opposite her, face haggard. Kiana, it wasn't me. I'd cut off my arm first. She meets his gaze, Jerome waiting discreetly outside, scanning for tails. I believe you, but who? Together they piece it. Emails, timestamps, leading to Lennox's IP, funded by Harlan's shadow accounts. Bastards, Darnell mutters. The confrontation builds like a crescendo. Kiana, flanked by Jerome and Terrell, storms Harlan's downtown office, a glass tower reeking of old money. Security buzzes them up, Harlan's smirk fading as she plays the recorded evidence, hacked convos, wire transfers. This ends now, she declares, voice steel. Resign your stake, or this goes public. Harlan blusters, but crumbles under the weight. Business. Nothing personal. Everything's personal, she retorts, the quiet strength of honesty fueling her. Lennox faces similar heat. Exposed, his firm drops him like hot coal. The viral twist, Kiana leaks the tape strategically via Vaughn's channels. Public outrage surges. Stand with Voss trends. Stocks rebound as allies rally. Evelyn, in a board call, admits fault. I was blind to your strength, Kiana. Respectability ain't armor. It's a chain. You stay. Reconciliation with Darnell unfolds on her rooftop, city lights twinkling like hope. I refused perks 'cause I wanted us pure, he confesses. But your world's tough. I'll stand in it with you. She tears the prenup. No more barriers, just trust. Their wedding is intimate, in a historic West End church. Family, friends, no flash. Jerome walks her down the aisle, tears in his eyes. Proud of you, boss. Marcus would have loved this. Twist. Kiana steps back as CEO, promoting a young exec, pivoting to hands-on philanthropy with Darnell. The empire thrives under new leadership, but she gains freedom. Love cost the throne, but restored her soul, unburdened and alive. The relief of justice floods her, the burn of betrayal replaced by warmth. In quiet moments, she thanks Jerome, whose expanded story weaves into theirs, a testament to redemption. And that's the tale. Black Billionaire finds authentic love amid chaos. Would you sign the NDA or walk? Comment below. What's your take on trust in power's shadow?